You know, I don't even know why I agreed. I don't even know why I decided to do the Twilight Marathon, because at this point I'm just kicking a dead horse. I am I am bashing on something that has been bashed on so much by so many other people, many of them infinitely more talented than I am. So I don't know what else I can contribute to to the uh, to the criticisms that have befallen the Twilight Saga Eclipse. Much like New Moon, there are no eclipses in this movie. But like the other ones, I'm going to start at the beginning. So it starts with this complete stranger, this guy named Riley, who's played by some guy named Xavier Samuel, who looks peculiarly like Keanu Reeves. But he's in this rainstorm, and the movie opens with him basically being attacked and turned into a vampire by Victoria, the evil vampire chick from the first two movies, who has been recast for some reason. Um, and she's now being played by Bryce Dallas Howard, but she basically turns this guy into a vampire, so that he can subsequently turn legions of other people into vampires, and this will eventually lead to her amassing a force powerful enough to to um to attack Forks and get to Bella. So while this is happening, um, Bella is continuously trying to get Edward to turn her into a vampire, and Edward at the same time is trying to get Bella to marry him, and she keeps saying no because she wants to be changed into a vampire first, and it's this whole big movie long argument that they have. In fact, it's not really that long of an argument. I mean, they have the same conversation over and over and over again. That's the way this whole movie plays. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Um, while Edward and Bella are kind of sorting out their relationship, this oh, by the way, they're back in Forks. The vampires are back in Forks, even though in the last movie they said we have to leave Forks because people are starting to ask questions about the family patriarch, Carlisle. So I guess people stopped asking questions. I don't know, but the thing the thing with Bella is that she not only is she being sought after by Edward, she is also being ruthlessly stalked by Jacob, the wolf guy, and this movie wastes no time in immediately taking one of the only likable characters from the first two movies. He may have been stupid, but at least he was kind of likable in his stupidity and his and just his willingness to help. But the movie immediately starts out making him diminishing any likability to this guy, because basically his attitude in the entire movie is, I have to break up Edward and Bella. I have to get Bella to admit her feelings for me, because most of his lines in the movie are basically like I know you feel something for me. You just won't admit it to yourself. Better you really be dead than be a vampire. I will make you love me. You love me, you just don't know it yet. I'm watching this guy going, are they trying to turn Jacob into some sort of teen rapist? And speaking of rape, I'll get to that in a second. But how do you get a character to pull a complete 180 like that? I mean, are they trying to... Like I said, they just diminish any likability we had toward him from the last movie. So while this love triangle is going on, I shouldn't even call it a love triangle because there's no conflict. There is no doubt as to who this vacant-eyed sociopath will choose to be with. She makes it painfully clear, time and time again, that she will always go with the vampire. No matter what common sense led her to believe, no matter what kind of common sense would have led her to believe otherwise in the last movie, she will always go with the vampire. Although I would argue that neither of these guys are a good match for her now. Neither of these guys are very good now because in addition to Jacob being basically spouting lines that a rapist would say, and basically trying to come on to Bella every chance he gets, Edward is being this controlling jerk who purposely disables her truck, who comes to her house and says where have you been? I've been so worried about you. Do not go on the Indian reservation or the Native American reservation. He's basically being this controlling son of a gun who... Why are we supposed to like this guy again? And I'm not acting like Bella is innocent at this point. I'm not acting like Bella has gotten any more likable from the last movie. In fact, she is one of the most unlikable characters in this. Because at the end of the movie, or near the end of the movie, Jacob is going off to help fight the vampire army, and out of nowhere, I guess she wants him to stay at the camp because she doesn't want him to get hurt. Out of nowhere, she says, "No, Jacob, don't go. Kiss me." And he's like, "All right," and he goes, and once again he falls for her little ploy. He plants one firmly on Bella in front of Edward, who at this point has finally convinced her to marry him. So here's Jacob kissing someone else's fiance, after she was willing to do so, and I'm just watching this movie going, she's toying with them. She is toying with both of these guys. She is constantly leading these guys on in a never-ending cycle. Like, oh, you might have a shot, but no, not really. Oh, you might have a shot. Oh, no, not really. She screws around with both of them. She can't just flat out say... I mean, to be fair, she does say multiple times, like, "Jake, I do not think of you that way. I will always choose Edward." But what she does here, in completely breaking down and kissing this guy, she has completely negated any objections that she had earlier. She has completely done away with any kind of animosity that she had toward this guy because here she is swapping spit with him. I don't know how we're supposed to take this chick seriously. I don't know how we are supposed to like her. And this is challenged multiple times during the movie. It's not just this one instance because like I said, the Victoria chick is amassing an army to come and kill her because I guess they finally felt like wrapping up that loose end that they kind of left untied in the last movie. But But like I said, there's this army of newborn vampires coming to kill her, and the Cullens make an alliance with the wolves, who still look very fake. The Cullens make an alliance and say, like, we will fight off these newborns. Now, I might have bought it a bit more if they basically said, pardon me, if they basically said, you know, these newborns will, once they're done with Bella, they will try and kill all the citizens of Forks. I mean, it won't stop just as Bella, but nowhere in this movie are we given any reason to believe that once Bella is dead, these newborns will not just pack up and go. Now, granted, they trash the place where they're born. I mean, there's cars wrecking everywhere. They're eating people, but you don't see any blood though. It's PG-13, and when you see these mortal enemies, these mortal enemy groups teaming up together to protect this one girl, and when you see these two supernatural beings fighting over the affections of this one girl, you just have to ask the question, what makes her so special? What makes her so worthy of everyone sacrificing their time, their effort, their lives to protect her? What has she done? Is she just that likable? No, she is completely unlikable. She is a manipulative little whore. I hate using that word, but she's a manipulative little tool. She's a tool. You are not given any reason to buy that so many people would be willing to give up this much for her. It's just completely implausible. And you know what? At this point, if there's an army coming and the army threatens Forge, just let Victoria kill her. And Jacob, if you shouldn't really have a problem finding another chick. Not with abs like that. I mean, do you really have to wage this supernatural war over Bella? This is Kristen Stewart we're talking about. This is Bella Swan, one of the most self-centered, codependent, petulant little people in Forks, Washington. Is she really worth it? And don't bother answering that, not just because you're fictional and you can't hear me, but the correct answer is no. She is not worth it. She is not even human. She seems incapable of any kind of human emotion. She seems incapable of any kind of human empathy. And again, when you try and this is supposed to be our main protagonist. This is supposed to be the audience proxy, the person that we experience the story through. And when you have someone this obnoxious, this blatantly evil, this malignant, it's very hard to root for her. I mean, I'm not saying you can't have obnoxious characters and still root for them. Like Hugh Laurie's character on House is obnoxious, but you still like him. I'm just really tired. I'm just really tired of trying to understand why so many characters in this movie are willing to literally give up everything without a second thought for this little toad. I can't stand it. I can't. The acting is not any better either. the acting is still terrible. Or, well, it's not as bad as it was in the first two movies, but some of the performances are still pretty bad. Like Kristen Stewart still has not improved. In fact, I think she has actually gotten worse. She's or maybe I wouldn't go that far because it's hard to really get worse from the performance that she's been giving in the past two movies. But she's still terrible. She's still doing that kind of stuttering, mopey, whiny, mumbling, bucktooth little routine that she's got going. She's still taking those really long pauses with Robert Pattinson. She still takes forever to complete a sentence. I mean, whenever you're supposed to buy that she's paying attention to something really serious and something during a scene that's supposed to carry real dramatic weight, the expression that she's giving, you can tell that she is just miles away. She does not care. She's just like, our heroine. So she's still just god awful. And Pattinson and Lautner, as unlikable as their characters are, their performances are actually better in this movie than they have been in either of the previous two movies, and I think some of that has to do with the director. The director is David Slade, who did Hard Candy and has since directed a few episodes of Hannibal. Much better material there. By the way, I highly recommend Hannibal. It is fantastic. The TV show, not the movie. So I think David Slade really has to be thanked for the improvements that he made to these performances. And again, these performances are still not good, but they're not as bad. I mean, Lautner is, like I said, he's not nearly as likable as he was in the first two, but I mean, he comes across really obnoxious and just very. You don't like this guy anymore. This movie, it seems like this movie really wants you to hate him. Mission accomplished. But he actually exhibits real emotion. Pattinson occasionally, whenever he's not with Kristen Stewart, he seems to be trying. Whenever he's not with Kristen Stewart, whenever he's, butting heads with Lautner, or talking to his family, or fighting with Bryce Dallas Howard, he seems to be trying to make something out of it. Same with the other family members. Same with the other Cullens. The Carlisle guy, the patriarch, he's a bit better. The Rosalie chick, the Nikki Reed chick, she's a little bit better. Although some of that has to do with the fact that they actually gave her a backstory. And here's the thing. Just like in the last movie, this movie blatantly teases you with several other ideas and concepts that you would much rather be watching. I'm trying to think of some. Okay, I'll start with the worst one. There's the Harpo guy, the Jasper guy, the one that almost ate Bella in the last movie. Apparently, they completely out of nowhere, they gave him this story where apparently he's most qualified to train them to fight newborns, because back in the Civil War, he was a soldier in the Confederate Army who got recruited and turned into a vampire by this evil Spanish vampire chick who also was breeding an army of newborns. And basically his job was to train them to fight and kind of dispose of them after the first year, because apparently the way that newborn vampires work in the Twilight universe is that during their first year or so they're in this kind of bloodthirsty frenzy where they're stronger, they're faster, they're more powerful, which is odd. I mean, you would think that as a vampire grows older and more experienced, you'd think then they would grow faster and more powerful, but no, I guess they just get more sterile, apparently. But his job was to basically dispose of them. His job was basically to train them and subsequently dispose of them. And they give him this really silly Southern accent that he didn't have in the other movies. I mean, all of a sudden when he's talking to Kristen Stewart and kind of explaining his backstory, he's got this laughably bad Texas accent going, and I'd like to think that I know what makes a bad Texas accent, because I've been to Texas many times. They don't sound like that. They don't sound like that. They do not sound that ridiculous. They do not sound that phony. This guy is clearly sending it up. This guy is clearly faking his way through this accent. He sounds ridiculous. He looks ridiculous in his Civil War outfit. And I think this really comes down to the very mediocre acting chops of the Jackson Rathbone guy who's playing him. I don't think I'll get many disagreements on that, because he was even worse in The Last Airbender. But I'll get to that sometime down the road. but when you see this flashback of him and these Civil War vampires, you're thinking, you know, I actually want a story about that. I want a movie about that. I want this movie to instead focus on Civil War vampires. And then later in the movie, or earlier, I can't remember the order in which these things went, but at another point in the movie, the Nikki Reed vampire, Rosalie, she's basically describing her how she became a vampire, because apparently she was this young fiance of this bachelor she was just in love with him. She felt like she was being whisked away in this fairy tale, and then he and his buddies one night were drunk and basically gang raped her and left her for dead. And when Carlisle found her, he turned her into a vampire, and she went and killed them all. Okay. Again, that is a much better movie than the one I am watching. I want to know what that movie is about, because that movie is more compelling. It's more gritty. Why am I wasting my time with Bella and Edward and Jacob? These three very boring characters with their very boring story arc that never goes anywhere. Why am I watching them when I could be watching a vampire woman scorned? Like hell hath no fury like a vampire scorned. Now, but B, why is Twilight bringing this type of subject matter in here? Why do Stephanie Meyer and the screenwriter Melissa Rosenberg, who has never written anything good, why do they feel that they now have the maturity and the complexity and the talent to write about something, to include something as real and traumatic as rape in their story? And they don't even... You're really going here? This franchise that has prided itself on pandering to teenage girls all around all around the world, and you're bringing rape into it. You are bringing a gang rape scene into it. I make of that what you will, but I will say that one of the only reasons I'm not angrier at this scene, or angrier at the subject of them bringing rape into Twilight, is because it gets worse in the next movie. But that being said, this is another instance where the supporting characters and this flashback prove to have a premise that is infinitely more interesting than the movie that we are watching. I want to know what happened with the vampire bride. I want to know what happened. I want to know what led her to kill her fiance as a vampire while theatrically dressed up in a wedding dress. I want to know what that story's about. And another story that's actually told by the werewolves around a campfire. I mean, apparently when the Native Americans were running around the forests, they came across these very pale, cold creatures, who are the vampires, and hostilities began between them, and eventually the chief came into contact with the last of the vampires, and seeing that he was going to lose, his wife actually stabbed herself with a knife to draw blood to lure the evil vampire away from the chief so that the chief could kill the evil vampire. Now, as stupid as that scene was, I want to see Native Americans versus vampires, because at least that has the ridiculousness factor. I mean, at least that could have some of the same novelty as like Sharknado, or some of those really stupid Sci-Fi Channel original movies. To this day, I still don't understand why the chief's wife stabbed herself when she could have just I don't know, sliced her hand or something. But all three of these stories are more compelling and have more potential for a better story than the movie that we're watching. Like I said, it teases you with these better ideas, and then blatantly rips you out of that and says, "Now forget that. Here's the love story again." And the love story, like I said before, just boils down to Edward and Bella talking about the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's like, "Marry me, Bella." She's like, no, change me into a vampire. And he's like, "No, I can't. You don't deserve this." It's basically that. That's the basic gist of 90% of their conversations in this movie. And Bella and Jacob have the same conversations in this movie multiple times as well. She's like, I love Jacob, but I love Edward more. And Jacob's like, well, I know that you still have feelings for me, and I will make you see, realize your feelings for me, no matter the means. And Bella's like, "Ew, get off me! You're so gross, you werewolf. I love Edward. Oh, but maybe I love you too, but I just love Edward more." Most of the movie right there. I just described most of the movie. Is that really what you want to see? And this was marketed as being this big climax, like werewolves and vampires finally duking it out. Lines are being drawn, armies are being formed, and it amounts to an action scene that takes about 5 to 10 minutes, because you briefly see the wolves and the vampires going at it. Not really sure what Jasper meant by faster and stronger, because they literally come apart with the slightest touch. I mean, all you have to do is hit one of these newborn vampires, and their head flies off. I mean, the wolves can tear these things apart like a stuffed animal. And then the little fight between Edward, Riley, and Victoria takes about 2-3 minutes, if that. And Bella, for once growing a brain cell, does what the Native American woman did in the flashback, but while in your heart you are hoping that she will kill herself and end this torment on the audience, she actually slices her arm, does something remotely intelligent, and this draws the attention of Victoria and Riley. So Edward can kill Victoria, and Riley can be killed by some nameless werewolf. And here's the thing about Riley. Xavier Samuel, I hope that's how you say his first name. Like Taylor Lautner and Robert Pattinson, he is trying to pull something off, except he is much better than Robert Pattinson and Taylor Lautner in this movie. He is trying his hardest. He is... I mean, when he's... Granted, a lot of it amounts to screaming at the top of his lungs like a lunatic. Like when he's being turned into a vampire at the beginning, he's kind of clutching his arm, going like, yeah! and then when he's trying to control all the newborns, he's like, "What did I say? What about a low profile?" And but when he's trying. He's actually trying to pull something off, and I get the feeling that this is a potentially really good actor who is just stuck in this really crappy movie. Oh my God, this guy. I hope this guy gets work, because there is real passion behind his performance. It's misguided, and it can make for occasional moments of over-the-top hilarity, but he, like I said, he tries a lot harder than this movie deserves, and I think, and like I said earlier, I think some of that has to do with the direction. David Slade is a good director. I don't know how they wound up having him direct this movie, but it was probably the same temptation that they lured the director of Golden Compass in, for the second Twilight movie. Oh, and another thing. How did they get Howard Shore to do the music? Howard Shore. He did the music. He has done the music for numerous more esteemed movies. I mean, he's done the music for numerous David Cronenberg films like The Fly and Dangerous Method. And he did the music for The Lord of the Rings, and he's currently doing the music for the Hobbit movies. So what is he doing scoring the third Twilight movie? I mean, unlike the first two Twilight movies, this is the first of these Twilight scores that is not completely awful. I mean, when the music gets more intense as the vampire action ramps up, and Riley is being turned into a vampire, and all the vampires and werewolves are fighting, the music actually ramps up to actually get kind of exciting. which is a lot more than I can say for how it was in the first two movies. But at the same time, I'm thinking, this is an extreme waste of talent. Howard Shore is completely wasted on just a nothing script. And I'm not saying like the composer is necessarily affected by the script, but the script determines the plot of the movie, and the composer composes music around said plot, and yeah. But what I'm basically saying is, how did Howard Shore wind up doing this? Someone as talented as Howard Shore, and by extension, someone as talented as David Slade should not be stuck working Twilight. But then again, that's what I've been saying about Billy Burke's character for the last two movies, and Billy Burke is still the most likable character in this movie. He's... Once again, Kristen Stewart's character is completely disregarding his inputs. He's like, maybe you should not spend every single waking moment of your life with Edward, and she's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I can spend every moment I want with him. And he practically has to beg her to spend time with Jacob at the beginning of the movie, because Jacob has fallen into this really deep depression or something over just not getting the woman that he wanted, even though there are legions of other women available to him. I'm repeating myself at this point. I'm gonna end this. This in terms of direction, in terms of performances, in terms of music, in terms of action, the action is well shot. As few of it as there was, as little action as there was, the action itself was fairly well shot, even though it could get quite ridiculous due to the vampires basically coming apart easier than Legos. But you know what? I'm going to give credit where credit is due, or at least I'm going to try to do so. The music's good. The direction is as solid as it could get on material like this. The cinematography is fine. The action scenes are fine. I mean, I was actually getting kind of into it during the very brief moments that we saw people fighting. But it's still this story about these three idiots. These two idiot guys who are constantly being jerked around by this sociopathic little tool. It's still this central story that completely kills whatever potential this thing had to be good. And as much as I am praising David Slade's direction, I have to suggest that what he really should have done is gone all the way. What he really should have done is completely disregarded the really crappy source material and pulled a Stanley Kubrick. What he should have done is been like, you know what, screw the fans, to hell with Stephenie Meyer. I'm gonna make this my own movie. I'm gonna make this crap good. I'm going to completely rewrite the whole story. I'm going to take the central premise. I'm going to of werewolves versus vampires in modern rural or in modern Washington, or wherever you want to set it, and I'm going to make this good. I'm going to get a better screenwriter. I'm going to fire the screenwriter because Melissa Rosenberg has scored all the Twilight movies and she sucks. I'm gonna get Stephenie Meyer out of here as producer. I'm gonna boot her out. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to burn this sacrilegious book after taking what I want out of it, and I'm going to make something good. I don't care if the fan base hates it. I'm going to make something good out of this. That's what he should have done. But likely what would have happened then is is the fan base would have swarmed him. There would have been a bunch of conflicts with Stephanie Meyer and people who actually care about this really stupid story. But I would have paid to see a movie where one of these movies where the director was just allowed to go nuts, where the director was just allowed to take some of the core concepts from the books and just run with it. Just completely disregard what made these books suck. And get better actors, get a better leading actress, and not have the acting be so subdued and bland all the time. Add blood, make this a hard R, because a vampire movie should be bloody. Make this a hard R, and maybe even throw in a little dark humor, like maybe throw in some gallows humor. But I'm kind of going off on a separate tangent here. As it is, the movie is just mediocre. It is the best of the Twilight Saga. Just in terms of sheer mastery of one's craft, and just considering how good it really could have been if you're still working with the same crappy material. I mean, I think with this material, I think this is the best movie, or close to the best movie that you could have gotten if you were strictly ordered to stick to this material. And that's really sad, because like I said, I would have liked to have seen something better done with this. But yeah, that's all I got for Twilight Eclipse. Next is Breaking Dawn Part 1. They split it into 2 movies. I only got 2 more to go.